Does caffeine from coffee raise blood pressure? And if so, does caffeine-free coffee keep it lower? I have a 45% ejection fraction. I read that coffee is good for the heart. Is that true?
Well, coffee is generally okay for the heart because it has a lot of antioxidants in it, and so that's actually okay. Whereas, and yes, caffeine can raise blood pressure. Some people have that effect, and because it increases the adrenal output, which is the stress hormone output, and constricts blood vessels to some extent. But here's the key: the thing about coffee.
We're ready. We're starting. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Healthy Heart webinar. We are so excited you are here. We're excited to be here. All three of us, Cheryl, Dr. Saunders, myself. This is episode number 2. And yes, so a lot of you have come over from our diabetes webinar. Many of you are coming to the webinar for the first time today. And like I said last week, you're in for a treat because we get to learn from wise Dr. Saunders. We were just chatting with him. Cheryl and I are both so thankful for him because we have learned a lot from him. He's helped us a lot. And, he shows up for you guys every week. Now, 2 webinars each week to share information and answer your questions. And it's just such a gift. And we're so thankful for it. I learned something new on every single webinar. It's just so good. It's funny the way that Dr. Saunders, okay, this is fun fact. He fasts a lot. Okay. So we talk about fasting and he's not like this big, huge guy, right? But look at him right now. He looks like a football player. Doesn't he? There we go.
The angle.
It is the angle. I was like, I've never seen you like that before. But anyway, okay, so we don't have very much time with Dr. Saunders, so we are going to get this party started right away. First of all, Dr. Saunders, we need to do a disclaimer, and can you tell us why we need to do a disclaimer?
Okay, I'm not your doctor, but for partly legal reasons, so that you don't think, I got this good information from Dr. Saunders and like he's my doctor or he's the one I go to. And so I'm not your doctor and I don't know your specific situation. And so when I give information, it's general information for a lot of people. Even if you specifically ask a question, I'm not thinking of you in your situation. I'm thinking of generally. And so it may not even apply to you, even though you asked the question. So it's kind of important that you take the information and you apply it properly. And you may even need a physician or a professional to help you to say, okay, I need these tests done so that we can find out if this applies to me, that kind of thing.
I also see a lot of people that hop on your webinars and they'll say, well, even though you tell me you're not my doctor, you're still my doctor. Even though you've never met them, they're still saying that you are. So
for like 30 minutes a week, Dr. Scott is all their doctors. Yeah. For an hour a week. Yeah. Now too.
It's so funny. Well, and that's the thing too, to be able to sit down and have these conversations and to ask the questions, I got to be honest, is more than I've ever gotten from any of the doctors that I've seen. So I so appreciate that you're doing this. Dr. Saunders I think his daughter's getting married tomorrow. So he's traveling right now. So we have a very short amount of time with him. So we're going to get this party started. Like I said, okay, Healthy Heart webinar. We're talking all things heart. I'm going to quick show you. You may hear this referenced. This is the Healthy Heart Solution Kit. You can find that at bartonwebinar.com. YouTube viewers, you may even have a little buy now button on your page. If not, there'll be a link that you can follow. But use code webinar25 if you see something that you are interested in purchasing. You don't have to purchase anything today or ever. You're going to get really good information here that doesn't require a purchase. But this is the manual to do all of the things that Dr. Saunders would recommend to someone who comes to his office wanting a healthy heart. Okay. And it's not probably what you're used to hearing. In fact, a lot of it has to do with food and stress reduction, exercise, etc. All the things you don't want to hear, right? You just want the pill sometimes. That's what I always say. Sometimes I just want the pill, but I don't want side effects, so I'm not going to do it. Anyway, Dr. Saunders, we're going to talk about high blood pressure today. I think you're going to share some information with us. We'll open it up for questions, but let's hand this over to you. Cheryl, anything to add on your end before we start?
No, I would just say that I was just talking to a doctor yesterday who said, bring in the next time you see me, bring in your book and bring in your supplements. He wanted to know about them. Like, I think it's getting
Awesome.
doctors need to know this is another option for their patients.
Awesome.
That's so good.
That is really cool.
Yes. All right,
Yeah.
Dr. Saunders, share
All
your
right.
wisdom.
Okay. Well, what I wanted to share was last week, I had a patient come in for the first time. I'd never seen her before. And she said, I need help. I have an issue or a series of issues that I don't know how to deal with. And I go to my doctor and my doctor doesn't know how to deal with them either. So she started out with an inflammatory condition called polymyositis. And that's inflammation in the body. And so her doctor said, well, we don't know why it's caused, so let's just treat the symptom. So they gave her an anti-inflammatory called prednisone. Now, prednisone is like a cortisone. It's like cortisol. It's the stress hormone. It's the catabolic hormone. We're going to talk a lot about this in the future, the catabolic hormones, what that means. Catabolic means breaking down. So this hormone breaks down your body. So she's on a high dose of this hormone called prednisone, and it shuts off her adrenal glands and shuts off her pituitary gland and causes her to be insulin resistant. So she gets insulin resistance easily, and it always causes you to gain weight. So she started gaining weight. And as she got bigger, her blood pressure went up. And because she had this extra cortisol, her blood pressure was higher. And then because her blood pressure was high, they put her on a drug for blood pressure. So now she's on 2 drugs. Then because she was on the blood pressure medication, she started getting swelling in her legs. So because they had swelling in her legs, they gave her another drug. Sorry, a diuretic to get rid of swelling in the legs. So then because she's on the diuretic, the diuretic predisposes to diabetes. So then she gets diabetes. So then they put her on another drug for diabetes, and the diabetes is contributed by the diuretic. Is in part the cause of the diabetes, but the other part is that she was on the prednisone, which predisposes to insulin resistance. So this combination of factors was just devastating to her body. So now she still has polymyalgia. She still has pain all the time. She still has inflammation, but now they've added on high blood pressure, heart disease, and diabetes to her, and with all these drugs that aren't really working because the diabetes medications can't bring down the blood pressure when she's on prednisone. So this whole thing, it's a fiasco that she's gone through with all these medications, and now her health is generally declining rapidly. And she's like, I need help. This is really bad. And it all happened just from one thing. She had some inflammation, and rather than find out why she had the inflammation, they just put her on something to suppress inflammation. So they just treated the symptom instead of the disease. That's what we're talking about. And that's what we're going to talk about on this webinar. Every week we're going to come in and we're going to say, okay, we're not treating a symptom. Guess what? High blood pressure is a symptom. It's not a disease. I know you were told, like I was told, it's the silent killer, that this is the worst disease you can have. And you may not even know you have it. And if you have it, you're going to die and you wouldn't even know it. And it's all a lie. None of it's true. High blood pressure does not cause any problems with your blood vessels. It doesn't cause strokes. In fact, here's the reality of blood pressure. When large studies are done, now they don't publish these studies. These are scientific studies that are never published in medical journals, so that doctors never know this. So if you go to your doctor and you ask, does taking a blood pressure medication, lowering my blood pressure, does it prevent stroke? And they'll go, oh yeah, that'll prevent stroke. Guess what? The research says no, absolutely not. And every large study that's ever been done, doctors are scratching their head going, what the heck? We get these people with high blood pressure, and their risk of stroke, is 1 in 10. And then we give them medications and drop their blood pressure down to normal, and their stroke risk stays exactly the same. It did not change in spite of having normal blood pressure. And that's been shown with diabetics. I know this isn't the diabetes webinar, but still with diabetics, people with heart disease. And so what about heart attack then? Maybe it decreases heart attack. Yes. And here's what it said, what really happens. And that is what the research shows. So this is the science behind it. You decrease your risk of a non-fatal heart attack. If you take your blood pressure medication for 20 years, you decrease your risk of a non-fatal heart attack by 12%. 12% lower risk. That's it. That's all you get for 20 years of blood pressure medication. And guess what? Fatal heart attacks, no change. It's just the non-fatal heart attacks do change. So you think you're taking a medication to improve your risk of getting these problems, but it's not. Why does this happen in the first place? Well, because there's an association. And the association is when people have high blood pressure, they're also at risk for having vascular disease. Well, so the question is, does the vascular disease cause the high blood pressure, or does the high blood pressure cause the vascular disease? Well, it turns out that vascular disease causes high blood pressure, and dropping the blood pressure does not get rid of your vascular disease. Whether it's a stroke or heart attack makes no difference at all. So this idea that, oh, you're going to take a blood pressure medication, you're going to have lower blood pressure, but we're not going to deal with your vascular disease. We're not going to even touch that. We're just going to lower your blood pressure. And guess what? You don't significantly lower your risk of any disease, because why? You still have vascular disease. This woman we're taught that came in, she still has vascular disease. She still has inflammation in spite of all the medication she's being given. She still has diabetes. She still has high blood sugar. She still has all those issues. And the medications do not address any of the underlying problems. They only address the symptom. That's the key here. So this is the key to cardiovascular disease. And this is why we have this whole webinar every week on it, is so that we can address all of these things that people have been taught for years and years and years, that if you just address the symptom, then the problem will go away. No, the problem then doesn't go away. You can put a Band-Aid over your skin cancer, but it's still skin cancer. It's still there underneath the Band-Aid. So you know what? That's not going to work. The same way taking blood pressure medication does not work to prevent heart disease or strokes. The same way taking diabetes medication does not decrease your diabetes. The same way all of those cholesterol medications do not lower your risk of stroke or heart attack. That's the reality.
That was a powerful, packed sermon right there. No, like there's such good information in what you just shared. And I'm like, we got to get this out to everybody. People don't know this.
This is important stuff.
Wow.
And did there happen to be a drug that came out on the market around the time people started treating high blood pressure with a drug?
Oh yeah, that's what it's all about. It's really all about the drug. Wow. It's not about health at all.
And here's another thing. We get a lot of people who comment on our webinars that are in similar situations, that have started with one drug, ended up taking a bunch of them for the symptoms. And then all of a sudden they'll hop on the webinar and they'll say, you know what? I have really bad diarrhea. What drug is doing this? And then that's the other problem. We have no idea. So guess what? If you went to your doctor, they're going to give you another drug for that. It's just,
Yeah.
oh, it makes me really sad. Unbelievable.
But the
Well,
people here on the cycle are breaking that cycle. They're gonna get
yes.
set free from that. Yeah.
And just like
Yeah.
Dr. Saunders said, this is our goal, with this webinar. We just want to bring some education. Dr. Saunders, I mentioned this yesterday. I said, Dr. Saunders isn't one of the doctors that, went to medical school. Like I said, just 10 years ago, right? That's when you graduated. He didn't stop learning that day, right? He's constantly researching.
I've been a physician for 30 years.
Well, you don't look a day over 25.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that
30
is.
years.
Yeah, that is crazy. That's awesome.
So he has 35 years of experience and extra knowledge.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know what? One other thing that I'd love to do right now, this is kind of changing the subject a little bit. Tell us some of the different places where you have, I know you've been a director at an integrative medical center. I think you worked, is it legal to say you may have worked for like HBO or, you have done a lot of stuff. Can you tell us, just give us a little snippet of some of the places that you've been?
Oh, it's been a wild journey. It's been a wild, things you don't even expect. I got a call one time. I started in my own urgent care. So I started off at the county of Santa Barbara. I was in the county clinic. So I had opportunities to work all over, and the Sansom Santa Barbara Foundation Medical Clinic at the time. And they wanted me to work for them, but it just felt too corporate for me. So I went to work for the county. I was working in the free clinics, and it was great. And then I met another doctor. We started an urgent care on the side that got kind of big. So after 5 years, I left the county and just was working full time in my urgent care. And then one day I'm in the urgent care and everybody's gone. I'm just cleaning up afterward. It's end of the day, like 6 o'clock at night or something, getting ready to go home. And I get this call. Are you Dr. Saunders? Yeah. Do you do house calls? Sometimes. Would you come to the Neverland Ranch? I'm like, yeah. Who's the patient? I can't tell you. What? Okay. What's the problem? I can't tell you. So what am I supposed to bring? Just bring whatever you need for a house call. And I said, and she said, okay. When you get to the gate, don't let them know you're a doctor. So when you get to the gate, push the button, and when they answer, just say Baker. And I'm like, okay. So I drive all the way out there, and it's a 30-minute drive. It's a ways out in the out of town, and when I got to the gate, I pushed the button, and they go, yes, who is it? I said, Baker. And then they didn't answer anything. Gate just opens. And then this guy at a guard shack's got a little truck and guard truck. And he says, follow me. And we follow through. All these cows are grazing around. It's a ranch. It's a real Neverland Ranch. It's a real ranch. They actually have cows. And so went up over this hill, and then there's big gate there. They're all lit up and everything. And it says Neverland, and big letters over it. And so we go through the gate, and we drive up to the house. And then so it turns out that the patient was Michael Jackson, and he needed some help and everything. And so from then on, he would call me all the time. And he says, Saunders, so Prince is sick. Can you come and look at him? I have to drive all the way out to the ranch all the time.
That is crazy. It
was really crazy. And then he would come to our house because my kids were the same age as his kids. So he'd hop. He hasn't had driver. He had a really cool roadster and a driver, and he'd come out to my house, and my kids and his kids would play in the sandbox, and it was really like. It was a lot of fun. And then in Santa Barbara, man, I have had a lot of individuals. It was a lot of fun. We got to play a lot. And then I've worked, so I had an urgent care. I worked at the county. I worked at several different clinics. I worked for HBO. I was their employee health leader for them. I've worked all over the place. It was just about everything, in
Nursing home.
medicine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nursing
And
home too.
didn't you record videos for HBO? too?
Yeah, I did. They're employee health videos. I did. What we did is we would do a seminar at the location in Los Angeles, and then they started saying, wait a minute, the people in New York are really upset because they don't get these seminars and they want to see them. So I started recording them, and then they would send them to the people, their employees all over the place. And it was same kind of thing, like we're doing the webinar here. There was like I'd give a presentation on something, and then they'd have a question answer afterward.
Wow. So cool. Okay, I know Dr. Saunders has to go soon. And so I'm going to quick do just a few questions. I love this. Every time I ask Dr. Saunders a question about not his medical history, that's the wrong way to say it. What it's like being in the medical industry in his past, I usually find out another crazy story with somebody or him doing something, or I tell often how we'll be traveling and he'll all of a sudden come out of his room at early in the morning and be like, at 3 o'clock this morning, I figured out the answer for this person's health issue. And we're like, oh my God. I mean, this is him. What you see is what you get. And he is passionate and he cares and he wants to get to the root of what's going on. And so we're just so thankful for him. I say that so much, but most of you on the webinar who've been around, you feel the same way. So you get it. Okay, let's do this question. This is a good question from Anonymous. Does caffeine from coffee raise blood pressure? And if so, does caffeine-free coffee keep it lower? I have a 45% ejection fraction. I read that coffee is good for the heart. Is that true?
Well, coffee is generally okay for the heart because it has a lot of antioxidants in it, and so that's actually okay. Whereas, and yes, caffeine can raise blood pressure. Some people have that effect, and because it increases the adrenal output, which is the stress hormone output, and constricts blood vessels to some extent. But here's the thing about coffee, and that's a really good question, because when research is done on coffee, what they find is there's no specific disease or condition or problem associated with coffee drinkers. Alcohol has problems. It destroys liver cells every time. Every little sip of alcohol destroys liver cells, and so some people get liver failure and all that. But coffee is not associated with higher mortality or higher blood pressure or higher heart disease. So the answer to the question is yes, it can raise blood pressure. But here's the key. Okay, remember, but the first story I started with is it's not the blood pressure, it's the vascular disease. So coffee does not contribute to vascular disease, and in fact may help it. And that's where you get that contradictory thing. You say, well, it kind of raises blood pressure, but actually they have less heart disease. So why is that? Well, the anti-inflammatory effects decreases the heart disease, but it's not the blood pressure. That's not the issue. So that's why coffee is not a problem.
And all the people said amen. Okay, good to know.
Can you answer the ejection fraction?
Yeah. Okay. So ejection fraction of 44% is kind of low. 50% is on the low side of normal. 20% is not compatible with life. And what that means is, as your heart beats, only 44% of the blood is being ejected. So you still have 56% of the blood is still in the heart after it finishes beating. So that's from the open to the close is 44% of it closes. And 50% is normal, but ideal is somewhere in the 60s, or I've even seen people 70, 75%. So those are really good numbers, 70, 75. I've never seen anyone over the 70s. And so, yeah, 44% is low ejection fraction. So that's really important because that's leading to congestive heart failure. So that's why it's important to fix that problem.
How do you strengthen that?
Good
It's a
question.
heart problem, not like a vessel problem.
Because, okay, so when the heart doesn't have enough energy, it won't contract all the way. It's called a contractile problem, and that's just not having enough energy. So sometimes it doesn't relax enough, and so those are two different things. And we're going to have to talk about those. We're going to have to do a separate seminar on ejection fraction and congestive heart failure. How you have to have you have to have enough energy to relax the heart, to open up, and then you have to have enough energy to contract all that blood out of the heart. So that's a process that's going to be a big thing we're going to talk about. How you get that energy, where it comes from, why exercise is really important, certain supplements you can take, and then things that damage the heart muscle.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. We have 3 minutes. Here we go, guys. Oh, that's a big question. Okay, do supplements block medications such as Eliquis and metoprolol?
Okay, certain supplements can affect them. And think of it this way: the supplements as food. So if you're taking coenzyme Q10, that's supplying.
Oh, did he go mute again?
Your body naturally has coenzyme Q10, and so there should not be an effect on almost all of the medications. However, because some things require the breakdown of the breakdown of the drugs require certain enzymes, and those enzymes can be inhibited by things. So you could have food like grapefruits, for example, can block a certain enzyme that doesn't allow you to break down metoprolol and Coumadin. And so if you're on those, they tell you, oh, don't eat grapefruit if you're taking Coumadin, for example. And other drugs as well. So there are foods that can block that. And of course, some of the supplements can block that. So yes. But our purpose here, we're not going to just focus on, oh, you should take this pill and this supplement, that supplement, and get off your medications and take supplements. No, that's not the point. The point is, if you get rid of the vascular disease, then you don't need the supplements or the drugs anymore. And so it's not just like a one or the other kind of thing.
And someone had asked, what's the most natural way to reduce or lower blood pressure?
Okay, so the best way to lower blood pressure will depend on why you have high blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure because your adrenal glands are excessive, then if you don't deal with the adrenal glands, whatever else you do is kind of irrelevant. If your blood vessels are lacking because you don't have your hormones proper, a lot of times just exercise is the best way to lower blood pressure. And by exercise, that means like something that pushes you to the limit kind of exercise. So they call it interval training, where you do something really hard for a short period of time, like 10 seconds, and then you do something light for 30 seconds, and then you push really hard for 10 seconds and then light for 30 seconds. That kind of thing is a great way to exercise.
Okay. All right. I know you need to get going. And so
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Saunders. Cheryl and
Okay.
I'll stick around here for a minute.
Yeah, and I'll be here next week.
Yay.
All
Okay,
right.
good. Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Dr. Saunders' daughter is getting married tomorrow, I believe. And so
He has another event with his other daughter right now. And then I
Yeah.
think that's in preparation for the other daughter getting married tomorrow.
Yes. So he is busy and was switching time zones around. And anyway, so he's traveling, but he hopped on quick. So we're going to just see if there's any questions here that we can help with.
Yeah.
Velo and Barbie are here. If you guys haven't met Velo and Barbie, they have done our diabetes solution kit and had amazing results. And so they said, Dr. Saunders, you are great, whether you're our doctor or not. So love it. Okay. Already did that one. We did this. Let's see. I think Roy. Okay, Roy says I'm 70. My blood pressure is really low, but I don't really feel better. Then you mentioned at my age, blood pressure should be 150 or something. Does my blood pressure impact neuropathy? Hey, Roy, I think we answered this yesterday on the webinar for diabetes for some reason. I might have made that up, but I feel like we did. I know that we can't give you that answer, but when I go through the webinar, maybe check the webinar from yesterday. It'll be posted on YouTube. bartonwebinar.com will send, or they have a link to our YouTube channel. Head there. It's not posted yet, but it will be soon. If you've subscribed to our YouTube channel, you get a notification anytime any of our episodes are uploaded, including these Healthy Heart webinars. So I think we answered that one yesterday. If I'm wrong, we'll ask Dr. Saunders again.
He asked us, is this the same question? Does stress impact the ability of the heart to relax? I don't have a medical answer, but I would think yes.
Yes.
That has to do with your cortisol, like Dr. Saunders was saying, but I think a lot of other factors affects your heart to relax. Yeah, it's energy. It's interesting because he says it needs energy to relax.
Yeah. Isn't that
Yeah,
interesting?
that's going to be a good episode when he talks about
Sometimes
that.
I feel like that. Sometimes it takes energy for me to figure out how to relax. Wait, what should I do to actually relax right now? Like, what is it that really is rest for me? That's another good thing to figure out. We talk about stress in this book and figuring out everyone relaxes a little bit different. Relaxing doesn't necessarily mean laying in your bed, taking a nap. That's not necessarily what rest is for people. A good, deep soul rest can mean something different to everyone. My husband, I think he gets recharged and feels rested when he is golfing.
I was going to say, my husband, he relaxes when he watches television, which is not everybody. He remembers things, not for me, makes my head all jumbled. I want to go out for a long, relaxing walk. But that's also the difference between our jobs. We sit at our desk all day. I want to get out, stretch my legs, where he's on his feet all day. So he wants to sit and relax. So
that
really
makes sense.
so specific.
Makes sense. Let us know, guys, in the chat what you do to relax. You know what I have found a lot of comfort in? So I'm in South Dakota, and I had mentioned this. It was 90 degrees a few days ago. It's snowing today, which is crazy. But one of the things that I've been enjoying lately, so funny, drop my kids off at school, turn the heated seats on and drive around for a little bit. I don't know why. So relaxing to me.
Why don't you turn the seat on heated before you drop them off?
I mean, yeah, usually I do. I probably don't notice it. Yeah.
So I kind of commute after work sometimes. Maybe that's what you're doing. Because we work from home. I get on my bike and I commute around the neighborhood just to start that relaxation after work decompression. And maybe you're doing the same, rush to get the kids to school, pack their lunches if you need to. And then now you're just going to decompress for a little bit.
And I think it's different. Some of you experience this too. If you work from home, when you walk back in the door to your home, that's when work starts again. So sometimes I might just take my time. You never know. All right. Let's see here.
There's a lot of questions about vascular disease. So we're going to have to talk about that specifically, vascular disease. Is that the same as heart disease?
Well, that's kind of what I was wondering. Okay, I'm taking some notes here, guys. All right.
Someone asked, interesting statue in the background. Dr. Saunders, where are you? He's at a temple in Provo, Utah. I think that's okay to say.
Yeah, I think so. Butch, how are you? Welcome back. Use the diabetic program. Now I'm off all of my meds. I do take verapamil Normal reading is 130/84 in the morning. I'm taking your supplements for artery repair and synchroma. Okay. That'll have to be a question for Dr. Saunders also. We do get a lot of questions about artery repair. So actually, I'm going to write that one down too. This is good, guys. Good questions. Yeah, okay. I think that's probably all that we can answer. Allison, I think someone asked this exact question on our webinar yesterday also. My husband has a triglyceride count of 300. What should he do to get it down?
What was the answer?
I don't remember, but I don't remember, but it will be posted. Let me look and see which episode number that was. I don't want to give you the wrong information here. And sometimes I get my numbers confused. So I think that's all we can answer today. So this is a little bit shorter webinar than normal, but come back next week and we will make sure to answer as many questions as we can. Yesterday's diabetes webinar was episode number 187.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I lied. 188. Sorry, 188. So that'll be on 188 when that is uploaded. Again, guys, bartonwebinar.com. That's where you'll find a link to our YouTube channel. You'll find a link to these webinars. You'll also find a link to some of our products, which you can go to Barton Nutrition as well to find them. If you go to bartonnutrition.com, every supplement has a video from Dr. Saunders where he talks about what the supplement's for, etc. And so that's just a good place to get some information. You can also find the Healthy Heart Solution Kit there. And this is what we'll be referencing quite often in these webinars. This is what Dr. Saunders recommends for his patients that come into his office. This is the much cheaper version. In fact, you can get the PDF version today within a matter of minutes. If you go to bartonwebinar.com, there is a link to this. And if you use code webinar25, you'll also save 25% off of this. It's only $19.97 for the PDF version. It is more if you want to order the hard copy and have it shipped. So keep that in mind, but lots of good stuff. This is one of our most recent solution kits. When I read through this, I was like, man, guys, this is so good. Such good information. I'm like, I got to get everybody to read this. This is good for me to read.
I'm going to get my husband to read it. He's on high blood pressure medication. I was like, babe, we're going to change some things.
Yes. Such good stuff, guys, from just even talking about the importance of stress reduction on your health, which I feel like is becoming more and more obvious. But just going into detail on that, exercise, food, you might be shocked at what Dr. Saunders says about food. He really encourages high fiber. So,
I remember last week we talked about fiber, and I was going to ask who ate more fiber this past week after Dr. Saunders talked about it. I tried.
I did too. I'm definitely more aware of it. So yeah. It's different. If you've been doing the diabetes solution kit, it's very different. The eating plan is very different. And so you can do both. You just eat low carb, high fiber if you want the benefits. So which is, I think Dr. Saunders he's a big fan of high fiber diets because of all the benefits to our health. So, okay, guys, that's it for us today. Come back next week. Thank you for joining us. And Dr. Saunders will be back here for the full hour next week. So thank you again. Thanks, Cheryl.
See you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.